Welcome to Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey with Jeremy and Becca, your trusted companions in navigating the ever-evolving landscape of virtual care.
All right, hi everybody, I'm Jeremy. I'll be your host today on Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey. I'm hosting solo today. Becca will be back with us in future episodes, but I've got a phenomenal guest with us today that you'll learn more about here shortly. So today, we've talked about several topics in past episodes, and today we're going to talk about one that I think I get the most questions about, which is our teledentistry program. Typically, first question I get when people find out we do teledentistry is, what can you actually do virtually in dental care? And there's actually a lot, and we'll dive into that, which will be really exciting. So would love to introduce today our clinical director for our dental business here at DialCare. It's Dr. Fred Sharpe, and welcome. I'm glad you're with us
Nice
today.
to see you.
Dr. Sharpe and I go back quite a bit. He's got a very tremendous background, which I would love actually for you to share. I know you've kind of gone through the clinical journey into the business journey, and now kind of have a foot planted kind of squarely in both. So why don't you just kind of go through your background a little bit so people can get to know you a little bit.
So I started in dental practice in Minneapolis in 1977 into 78, started dental practice. And I was in dental clinical for 8 years. Along the way, when I had nothing better to do with my evenings, I went to law school. So I had both the legal training with the dental, and it really fit for going into dental benefits. So 1985, I left clinical practice and I joined up with a national insurer that was starting a nationwide dental HMO. I was with them for 6 years and then went and started a dental discount program here in Texas. And also along the way, I was responsible for a dental credentialing company out in California. Ultimately, in 2003, I joined my final company and we did Medicaid dental. When I left in 2018, we had 4.4 million members in Medicaid programs in 8 states. So I've been on the commercial dental side, the discount dental side, the Medicaid side, and also in credentialing.
So obviously that's what led us to you, is that background. For those that don't know about DialCare's relationship, we're an affiliate company of a company called Carrington. Carrington's roots are primarily in dental. A lot of people know us from our dental world. So when we launched DialCare, a lot of folks actually assumed we would start in teledentistry first. We didn't. We think from a business standpoint, physician was where we needed to start. So we did. But we started to build out our teledentistry program in 2019. It launched in September of 2020. It was not because of the pandemic, but obviously from a timing standpoint, aligned really well. And so while we were developing the concept of the teledentistry program, we thought of you, we joined up, and from a clinical setup standpoint, Dr. Sharpe was a tremendous help in that. So talk a little bit from maybe more of your clinical background, where you see teledentistry's benefits, how you see it used, ways that you think that it's beneficial to a consumer, and what you see clinically you can actually do through teledentistry.
So essentially there are 3 major applications for teledentistry. The first one I kind of refer to as assisted teledentistry. And in my Medicaid history, we used teledentistry with a dental hygienist who was in a public school screening children and doing cleanings. And she could get on her phone or other device and have a dentist at the other end who was analyzing the need for that child relative to the severity of their dental problems. And then we'd categorize them as 1, 2, or 3, 1 being needs immediate attention from a dentist, 2 needs attention, needs to see a dentist, number 3, pretty healthy. So that was the first exposure I really had to teledentistry. And then as teledentistry evolved, it was first mostly accepted within the dental practices. So it became, instead of just calling your dentist, you could get on a Zoom call or whatever with video and show the dentist what your issue was. That was for those patients who had a dentist already, right? So that took care of another segment. And there are numerous dental offices that use this effectively, both preoperative and postoperative. The last is the group that may not have a dentist currently, may be not sure what their problem is, et cetera. And that's where DialCare comes in. DialCare really is the answer for the populace at large. If you have a dentist already, you may or may not be using DialCare. But realistically, DialCare has answers, or the opportunity for answers, for anyone as long as they have the program. The reality of what we can do, and this is interesting. When we started, I had a sense of where we would go and what we would see in the results from the calls. And one of the things I thought was that we would see a lot of moms calling in saying, hey, Junior chipped a tooth, or my child has teeth that look like they may be needing braces or whatever. And that's not been the case. The calls have been virtually all calls for themselves. And generally our audience is between, say, early 20s to 60s, right? So it's people calling in with their own issues, asking, what should I do about this? Sometimes it's a second opinion, but a lot of times it's a first opinion.
So a couple of things that Dr. Sharpe, you point out that I want to kind of reiterate for our audience. One is that there are a lot of opportunities to go out and search what you think is wrong with you, right? You can Google it. It's going to give you a lot of great information, but it's going to give you a wide berth of information. And a lot of times your issue may be very specific and it may not be what you're reading online. So these, we kind of generalize these as oral health questions, right? So they'll call us or have a video consult with us and they want to know, what is it that I'm suffering from? Why is this pain the way that it is? Or even if they have an established dentist, to Dr. Sharpe's point, sometimes those dentists aren't available and could be 2 a.m. I had a root canal 2 days ago. I'm in more pain than maybe I think I should be. And I may not want to wait until I can contact my dentist. Maybe it's several hours away. Could be a weekend. You may be dealing with a couple of days delay. And so to be able to have that reassurance of what actually is going on and get some of that preemptive treatment when it's necessary is hugely beneficial, not just peace of mind, but obviously from the overall health standpoint. Another component to what we're seeing that I think we somewhat felt might happen, but now seeing it in action, it's kind of confirmation is, the dental world can, I'm sure you've heard this your whole professional career, like, people by and large kind of a punchline. They don't like going to the dentist. It's uncomfortable, or there's anxiety, or there's pain, or whatever. And largely, while that can be some people's experience, I've always had great experiences at the dentist. But the reality of that is some people really don't want to go sit in the chair. Mm-hmm. And so, but they also may not know just how invasive procedures can become if things go untreated. So what we are seeing, and I love this as one of the byproducts and uses for teledentistry, is it's generally what we'll say moving people into treatment faster. Hey, get on the phone, get on a video call with a licensed dentist and talk to him or her about this is what I have, I've got this pain, what should I do, should I go in? What these dentists can do is really walk you through what you should expect for the treatment that you may need, but also if it goes untreated. And that's where a lot of people don't realize both the cost and the way they become, some of these procedures can become pretty intense, right? So hey, if you go have a one surface filling today, here's what you should expect. It's gonna take about X long. Also, general cost ideas. People don't really understand the cost of oral health care a lot of times, or what the procedures are going to do and what is needed. So, hey, here's if you go in and get a one surface filling, and it's what you should expect. But if it goes untreated, and let's say the decay gets to a point where you are going to need a root canal and a crown, here's what those procedures look like, right? And a very big cost difference. And so we're really seeing that cost shift happen, which is really encouraging.
Right.
And then you mentioned this too a little bit, which is a very impartial second opinion. And sometimes second opinion can be viewed as, oh, I don't trust my dentist. That's not it. A lot of times, while we'll classify it as a second opinion, a lot of times it may just be, can you tell me more about what I was just given in this treatment plan? It says I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. I think I understand what that means, but here's some questions. Maybe they were too embarrassed to ask their dentist, or ran out of time, or maybe they were mid-procedure and didn't think to ask and they want to ask it afterwards, right? So talk a little bit about how you view that, the treatment, the explanation of what to expect, second opinions. Where do you see all of that within the virtual teledentistry side?
So you've touched on what I see as some of the keys. The first key, as you touched on, is communication. The patient is getting answers without having to go to the dental office, okay? And hopefully those answers will inform the patient better than if they went to WebMD or just Googled something, because they may go down the wrong rabbit trail. So that's why we have dentists. And a point to make, all of our dentists are answering calls in the state where they're licensed, right? We're trying to make sure that within that licensure is where they're working. The second issue is ease of access. Pick up the phone. That's been described very positively. But there's really two ease of access points that we should understand. One is, it's easy to pick up the phone, and hour-wise it's late at night or Saturday or something where their dentist might not be available or able to take their call. The other ease of access has to do with geography. We've got a lot of areas in this country where the local dentist is 50 miles away. We don't realize it, but the country has become a lot more urbanized, hence leaving small towns behind. And a lot of those small towns are too small to support a dentist. So that's the second part of access. And the third thing is fear, right? When I was with a major insurance company, we started looking at the numbers of patients who had a full-blown dental plan that didn't use it, right? And among adults, what we found was, even with the most well-paid, least patient cost program, the adult utilization rarely went above 60 to 65%. So what does that tell us? There's 35% of people out there that don't go. And it's not from a cost standpoint, because if they look at their plan, a lot of the things are covered at 100%. But it's three things: fear, either real fear from their personal experience, or fear that's been passed on from family members,
That's
right?
Interesting, yeah.
Second is accessibility, can't get an appointment, all the things of that coupled with cost. And then the third thing is just my family history, we never went to the dentist, right? And so you're kind of overcoming a personal family culture that really didn't include dentistry as part of what they found important. So, I've worked with Medicaid in a lot of areas. The Medicaid utilization that we saw was generally in the 30% range. And understand, that's 100% paid for. There's no cost to the patient. So it's a challenge for dentistry to literally get the people to come in. And teledentistry overcomes that. There's not the smells of a dental office. You're not walking in there thinking, oh, they're going to tag me with a big bill. I can call, I can get an opinion, I can tell them what I'm struggling with or suffering from, I can show them a picture, and hopefully get enough information for me to make a reasonable, intelligent decision about my healthcare. And that's really where I see it. People say, gee, teledentistry, dentists touch a patient. Yeah, we do. In fact, 90% of what we do involves opening your mouth and sticking our hands in there. But this helps to either reduce the fear, understand the costs, understand the treatment before they even go in. So it's not this big unknown. And that seems to be what we're seeing with the summary of what the patients are doing. We review cases calls every month to see, the dentist give the right answer? Do we have the right understanding of what was happening, et cetera? And it just really is starting to, I think, take a firm hold, and people understanding and appreciating it.
Yeah, I would agree. And for those that are listening to this for the first time and really haven't thought through virtual dental care, I think once you start to sit back and listen to some of the things that Dr. Sharpe has brought up today, you realize it's one of those things. Like, I've been fortunate to have access to a dentist as kind of a second opinion or a buffer or my kind of go-to. Hey, I've got a question. I actually did this yesterday. I had my first root canal and crown, and the crown was permanent crown was seated yesterday. So I've never gone through all that, right? So I had a meeting after that, and I asked our owner is a dentist, and so I asked him, hey, is this normal? This is what it feels like right now? And I kind of felt like there was a popcorn kernel stuck in it. He said, just give it, it's gonna be fine, give it a few days. But that sounds like, oh, a big deal. But I actually didn't feel like I was gonna, well, let me rephrase that. I intentionally didn't ask that question of my dentist. Not because I thought he had done anything wrong. I had never obviously had this. So this was 4 or 5 hours later, and I thought, well, okay, this is actually, while some people may seem like, or may think that's relatively low-hanging fruit for the use of virtual dental care, that is what it is, right? Because what if that question was something that is more concerning than I knew it was going to be?
Right.
And it's like, hey, obviously I can see video, I can see pictures, but you may want to get X, Y, or Z checked again for whatever reason. And so that's on the easy end, right? And to your point, there's a lot of folks who, for whatever reason, aren't getting in the chair, and that's where you see much more invasive procedures needed, more painful, more time away from your workplace or school, or whatever the case may be. So for those that haven't quite considered teledentistry, I would highly recommend. Think of it in a much more broader picture. Think of any time you may be searching the internet for answers to oral health questions, or, man, I just wonder what this is. Those are all ways that it can be used, which is interesting. So kind of a broad, let's get our crystal ball and look into the future. Where do you think teledentistry can go? Like with any, we've seen it definitely on the physician side with wearables and these just different technologies that are just making virtual care so much more broad and robust. It's so much fun to watch everything going on there. Probably an episode down the road is to talk through all of those things. But I get a sense just from all the roots that we have in dental through our companies is I think dental's following that. So where do you think we are 5-10 years from now with what all can happen with the convergence of equipment? I see at-home intraoral scanners that are becoming more and more price possible. Where do you think things could go?
So if you consider the questions we get, they kind of fall into 4 categories, and they have to do with treatment. In other words, there's those that have a problem, they're not sure what it is. There's those that have gone to the dentist, had a diagnosis and a recommendation, and they're trying to confirm that. There's those that have had treatment, like you just said, and something doesn't feel exactly right. And they want to know, is this normal? Do I need to go back? Da-da-da-da. And then there's the follow-up, right? And in that last area, follow-up, post-treatment after some time, I think that's where we're going to see that. But I do see post-operative follow-up. You went in and you had an extraction, like a third molar. Well, you can use your phone and you can show the doc, hey, it's 3 days later. Here's what it looks like. Is that normal, right? I had some great oral surgeons I worked with, and they were wonderful because they would call the patient the night after their surgery and see how they were doing, and then make sure they had them back like 4 or 5 days later. I can see this replacing some of that perhaps with the surgical procedures or something else that's clearly visible. If you need x-rays, I don't think we're going to have homemade x-rays for a long time. Right? But realistically, dental is limited. The physicians spend 50% of their time with prescriptions, and dentists spend, like I said, 10 to 15%. So what I think is we're getting a disproportionate number of those people who have either pain or infection that are actually calling because it's driving them to call. But I see teledentistry moving forward, having more dental offices using it preoperatively. You think about it. A lot of the companies, a lot of the offices will have you fill out a health history ahead of time, right? Mm-hmm. Get it online, fill it out, send it back, or fill it out online. So maybe we do this as a scan before you ever show up, right? Yep. So you get to see the teeth, and it would allow the dentist to essentially categorize patients as a patient that has, looks like great oral health, somebody that's had good dentistry but has had dentistry, somebody that really needs dentistry.
Right.
You know, you could see that being a precursor so the dental office isn't seeing everything on that patient for the first go-round when they walk in the door. And I think that's where the future is going to go, is we're going to have more opportunity for the dentist to learn more about the patient before the patient even comes in. And hopefully that'll do two things. It'll give the dentist a chance to understand what they may be dealing with, but hopefully it'll also reinforce the patient that the dentist already knows some about you. You need to make your appointment, right? You need to go in and let the dentist tell you more. So I think it's a good thing. It's encouraging good dentistry. It's encouraging good communication. And I think that's the real essence here. And we are limited. We are dentists. We are required to touch things like teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Sharpe, and your experience and how you've helped us with all of our clinical side at DialCare. You're a tremendous resource, and appreciate all your insight. Today, I hope that we've shed some light on some things in teledentistry that maybe you haven't thought of before, ways that it can be used. If it did spur any questions, would love for you to reach out to us. And let's talk about what you see or ways you think it could be used or questions that you might have. If you're a dentist and you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us as well. Obviously, connect with us on LinkedIn, subscribe on Apple or Spotify so you don't miss any future episodes. Obviously on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe and like. And if you want to leave a comment, suggestions for future episodes possibly, or even comments that we could potentially consider readdressing or addressing again in future episodes, would love to do that. But really appreciate your time today, Dr. Sharpe. Appreciate everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time on Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey. Thanks.